Homies, what an end to the week. Now, I definitely don't feel over the moon. You know, it's week 1. I've never done this sort of training before. I've never pushed it this hard before specifically. And you get to that point where you kind of running on fumes and you really just make the most of every day just to have a glimpse at what could be, you know? You never know what the potential of your program and your training is going to be until you see it all the way through to the highest extent that you know that you can push it. You know, because if you just come in and do a couple of bullshit sessions where it doesn't really mean a whole lot, or you don't feel as passionate or feel like you need to try as hard, then it's probably not going to work that well, at least not in the long term, you know? And for me, I like my programs working more in the short term because I like resetting my standard constantly, you know, doing completely new programs all the time just to keep the passion going, keep it new, keep it fresh, keep it fun, you know? This isn't meant to be a job. This is meant to be something I do for the rest of my life that makes me better, makes me appreciate life more, but also gives me something to really look forward to in the day. You know, I could have the worst day imaginable, go through work, do the best that I can, and I know that if I push my hardest in the gym and really give it the time that it can have to develop in that moment, even if I'm feeling the absolute worst, I can feel a whole world of better that I would have never known if I had not given it that best attempt. And I think one of the best things about the training from today that I've realized, today is the worst feeling day of the week when it comes to my physical. Specifically, my low back is extremely sore and numb. It's not even really that I can't work it. Like, there's no pain, period, whatsoever. It's just tired and fatigued. But it's the first time all week where I couldn't really contract it. You know, I couldn't hold. I lacked stability today. You know, bottom of the line. I couldn't really hold the bottom position of a squat properly, or at least not to the highest extent that I know that I can. Because, you know, even though I set these days up to potentially be the absolute highest peak days of the week, I've come to realize that these are the days where my maintenance weights are going to increase without me even realizing it. And what I mean by that, just to throw them all out there real quick so I can really give you the full perspective of what's going on. Front squat, I worked up to 405, crushed 405. It wasn't as pretty as I'd want it to be, but I crushed it. Put on 425 for shits and giggles because I at the very least thought that I could pick up one more weight. And it's nice to have the confidence that I've lacked for a very long time to pick up some weight that I'm not comfortable with yet on a front squat. Front squat used to be my kryptonite weight. It still is tough for me with my super duper long femurs and not very strong upper back. But having the confidence to pick that up and even get underneath it is a world of difference. Back squat, again, low back was getting more and more fatigued as I go. I really didn't think that anything was going to happen today, but I just stuck to the technique. Again, when I come into the gym, the bar resets. My all-time lifetime max becomes the bar, and I work up one weight at a time. Somehow matched my squat PR at 495. That's insane, because I've only hit that once, extraordinarily peaked. So I did not expect anything today from that. Likewise, bench press. As you can imagine, with a numb low back, it's hard to, really, you guys see how I set up. I really dig my middle and low back into my spine so that I can have the most compact position in my upper back where my shoulders line up. And it definitely took a bit to stretch it out and make it feel a little bit better, just have that better blood flow specifically that made it, at least in the short term, feel okay. I'm going to be a lot more sore tomorrow for sure. But 365 flew today. Now, no chance in this world am I going to try to pick up, 375, 385 today, simply because I know my limitations, and the moment I put on more weight, the technique is gone, my low back might pull. I'm not going to play with that. But you got to look at the big picture. On the day I'm the most physically out of it, my low back 100%, regardless of mental, my low back 100% is the biggest limiting factor. Has not felt this week all week long. And yet, I have matched every single lifetime PR and attempted above it on one of them on the day that I'm the most fucked up. Those are my lifetime matched PRs. And I only ever hit those when I was on the best, highest program of my life last month. That I thought, man, it doesn't get better than this. So even though I'm more tired and I'm definitely more fatigued than I'm used to on this program, the Bulgarian way is putting in some work. I never expected my body to react this way, but like you guys have seen throughout the week, again, it's only week 1. You never know what's going to happen. I don't expect this to continue forever, obviously, but I'm going to run it while I got it. So the biggest thing that's super, super important to recognize is that even though I don't feel as great, and it may not feel as satisfactory as it typically would on a very peaked day, the fact that I matched my PRs on an unpeaked day means that my maintenance weights have increased by a good chunk. Because if these used to be PR max out all time, I'm the best prepped I've ever been in my life kind of weights, and now I'm hitting them when I'm tired, my actual PRs for the peaked days are already beyond my expectations. I cannot fathom what I'm capable of because I don't know when I'm going to be peaked next. I don't get to control that. You know, obviously I could take a couple days off and then come in and do a random PR, but I want to be consistent in my training. And I don't want to just fuck around and just hit random big numbers. I want to go as hard as I can every day. The numbers are secondary. That's the biggest thing. I talked to a new gym homie today that he actually knew about Olympic weightlifting, which was nice. So he at least understood what I was talking about. And he went down the whole rabbit hole of, I'm comparing myself to Lu Xiaojun and Li Dayin, Lu Huanhua, Carlos Nassar, all these crazy, insanely out of this world genetic freaks, and freaks in the sense of just their effort alone. You know, they push it harder than anybody else regardless of their genetics. So, you know, we go down that tangent of, you know, like, I don't feel like I'm doing good enough ever because I see all these people that are so much better, and I feel like I should be able to do that because I've been training for 2-ish years. And I looked at him, I'm like, dude, I know that I look like I'm at the peak of my life right now because I'm hitting all these crazy new weights. I look bigger than I've ever looked. I'm just the best I've ever been for me because I do it for me. But I've been training for over 8 years and have been Olympic lifting consistently for over 4. And I weigh 225 pounds. This kid is like 150. And so he's all like, oh, I'm 21. You know, sometimes it feels like I got in later than I should. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you know, you got to remember, Lu Xiaojun was lifting when he was 9 years old in Olympic lifting. Like, these people are not only freaks genetically, but they were born to do this shit. Just because you got into it later doesn't mean that it can't become your own sport. And that's my biggest thing. Is even if we're picking up the same weights, even if we're lifting the exact same program with the exact same lifts every single day, we are not the same. No one is the same in anything you do in life. It is your discipline, consistency, and passion that creates your own purpose for what you're trying to do. Even though I'm Olympic lifting and doing, you know, snatch, clean and jerk, back squat, front squat, bench press all the time, and these are very common lifts that everybody does, it's still my own sport. I say that I'm an Olympic power lifter because that's the general category I fall under, but my lifting is only unique to myself because my experience, my genetics, my age, the million factors that create me, my DNA, and my livelihood experiences are what created the sport to be what it has sprouted into today. I tell people all the time, if you think that you're shit right now, I'm telling you, if you've been training for a little while or if you've been on and off before, I'm like, show me either the last time you were consistent or show me 6 months ago if you've been consistent. And almost every time, people tell me, oh, well, I was shit back then. So you're telling me that in the super small window of 6 months' time of your entire livelihood during the peak of your life, physically, in your 20s or teens, whatever, you've gone from being completely shit at the sport to at least good in your mind at the sport, to where that doesn't even compare. So in 6 months, you can't even fathom being as weak as you were when you started. How do you think you're going to look in 6 more months? That's the point of consistency and discipline. It creates the passion in the long term. The numbers come second. The mental comes after the physical. As much as I love having as hype a day as I can't force my body to pick up more than what it can every day. If it worked like that, the PRs would be thousands of pounds, and people would be dying from this shit. We are limited by our bodies to keep us healthy, to keep us from overdoing it, to keep us at the rate that we are supposed to grow at. Everybody's genetics and livelihood experiences are different. Everybody will grow at a different rate. You think if I could just sleep 12 hours a day and go straight to the gym and have no work, yeah, I'd be lifting a lot more. A whole hell of a lot more. God, I think back to when I didn't have a job and I had online classes for college, wasn't doing shit all day, slept 10 hours every day, got to do whatever the fuck I wanted, just went to the gym, ate and slept, did whatever I wanted. And my numbers back then are semi-comparable to now because I grew so fast, so quick off the perfect schedule. And yeah, I miss it, but I'm passionate about my life now. I'm okay with limiting myself in certain ways to up the passion in other parts of my life that have its own set of priorities. I like my work. I like my people. I like being social. I like eating shit food. You know? No matter what I do it to the highest extent of my ability, knowing that I can accept the rewards after I've put in my maximum effort and lived the life that I wanted to my own way, at my own rate. Not anyone else's, not what people tell me I should have been doing. If I was doing what people should have been doing, I'd never bench. I'd separate all the lifts like I used to. I wouldn't go as hard. I'd go easy. I wouldn't give a shit about going heavy ever. But this is what gets me passionate. This is what gets me in the gym. This is what makes the gym have purpose. Even though I'm Olympic lifting and I like competing in the sport, the growth that I have is no one else's but my own. I could care less if I become a champion. I could care less if I beat my peers. I could care less if tomorrow's the last day I have in this sport. Let's say I horribly injure myself tomorrow. No more physical sports ever. I promise you, the next time I get that spark, I will absolutely chase whatever passion I can. It doesn't have to be weightlifting. I've just found myself through this sport and have put its own set of purposes into it. But by no means is this the end all. There are too many things to do in this world to say that you can't be passionate in other stuff. I've just put so much time into it and I love it so much that I want to keep running it for now. When it gets boring, yeah, I'm going to stop doing it. I'm not going to force myself to lift out of obligation if it's not fun anymore. You know, I feel like I want to be physically active forever, but who knows? I might get fat one day. But if I'm fat and ugly, I'll be happy as fuck. I promise you that. Either way, physically, oh man, I mean, like an 8.45. Like, it's crazy how lesser, and that's still a high score, I know, but compared to my peak days, this ain't it. Mentally, easily 9.25. You know, great day, happy, passionate, tired as hell. I'm so ready for tomorrow to be another rest day. This is why these last 2 days have less work and another rest day instead of lifting for another 3 days in a row. I want to go as hard as I can in the beginning of the week for the technique and conditioning so that when I come for these days, I can simultaneously recover while hitting new high 1-rep maintenance weights that are going beyond my PR weights on the days where I'm peaked but doing way more than I'm used to. It constantly leaves more in the tank so I can constantly grow while simultaneously limiting myself in certain ways that make me work harder. But regardless, thanks for hearing me yap. That's about all I got. I will be back day after tomorrow for the same shit. There are no blocks. There are no expectations. If I get stronger, I get stronger. And I am so excited to see what I'm going to become because of this past week alone. I feel like I've put like a year's worth of experience into this past week. It's been nuts. But thanks for hanging out. Let me know how the lives and lists have been going. Love hearing about it. And I love you guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye.